Hey guys, my name's Dave, and I listen to Without Apology.
Dave.
Perfect.
I want you that will be our intro for this week.
Oh, it will.
100% will be our intro.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Without Apology. My name is Isaac Bogue. With me, as always, River drinks LaCroix harder. He says Pamplemousse. And Stevie G takes my chair. Gamauf.
It's facts. I did take his
He
chair.
did take it, but you
I
know,
yoinked it.
it's not even my chair. So we just kind of, you know, like in school, you don't have assigned seating, but everyone sits in the same spot every time.
Yeah, that's literally what
It's
this
kind
is.
of what
That's
what
what this
happens.
is.
You know what's the funniest thing is when you walk into a class and someone's in your chair and you're like that like subtle second where you're like I sit there, but
But
I
you
and
can't-
they're but
Did you have
can't do
like
anything.
inherent ownership over it, and you're just like, that's not okay. But then you're
Right.
like, it actually is okay.
That's what happened the second week of class this semester. There was a person in our class that was sitting like me and Isaac. We would sit by each other at
Yeah.
a table,
They divided us.
and this dude sat where I was sitting. I
It
was
was evil.
I'd be very
But you
upset.
can't be like, hey, dude, that's my chair.
exactly.
You're just like, okay.
This is unspoken. I sat here this
Yeah.
week. You
The
sat all way
unspoken
over there
truths.
last week.
That's unfortunate.
I know.
That's okay,
It is
though.
very unspoken. Hey,
Yeah.
but that is okay.
It's just a small pet peeve, but it's okay.
A small pet peeve. Another pet peeve is when people don't buy your merchandise. You know what I'm saying? JK. But
Haha.
I would check it out because cool shirts, cool hoodies. Steve's got one on right now.
It is a little nice, I'm not going to lie.
Well, I'm getting there.
Oh, okay.
We got the crew necks, we got the hoodies, we got the t-shirts, and we have custom made, without apology, mugs
Bro, they're actually sick, though.
to drink from.
They're
I drink-
so sick.
I drank coffee just yesterday out of one.
Same. Bro,
Out of the mug.
I drank my tea this
It's
morning
insane.
out of it. It's
I
so
drink-
nice, dude.
I
So
literally
nice.
drink everything out of it except for the Sprite I have on this desk.
That's right.
But hey, these
Every other
mugs
drink.
are only, get this, $11.
What?
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 Only $11. So if you're interested in a custom-made, without apology mug, and River kisses every single one before we give it to people.
He does.
And then I pray over it.
And he prays over it. Only $11. And when you drink from it, it's like you're right in the studio with us.
That's
It's
right.
like you're right here.
Mm.
part of the
Literally
team.
right here.
Literally right here, part of the team. Part of everything we're doing. So
And,
I encourage you guys to check that out.
and they could wear their T-shirt and then
No
their
way.
crew neck over that
Whoa,
T-shirt and then
whoa,
their
whoa.
hoodie
Hoodie
over
over
the
the
crew
crew
neck
neck.
and drink out of their without apology mug while
With-
they listen to Without Apology.
With the sticker on their on their
On
with
their
the sticker on their
phone
computer
or
or
computer.
phone or whatever
Yeah.
you're listening to. By the way, we give out free stickers. So
Dude, literally wherever.
yeah, literally like they're
These-
cool. They go with everything.
They do.
Yeah.
They're very nice.
You can just walk up to me and say, "Hey, I want a sticker." I'll throw a sticker at you.
River will,
He will throw
like,
it.
out of his pocket, just pull out a sticker,
Ninja Star.
throw it. Ninja Stars there right at you.
Mm.
Speaking of Ninja Stars, those would hurt. We got a lot of
Yeah.
questions on the Instagram. If you have any questions, please DM us. We keep it anonymous, so don't be afraid to get on us or anything like that.
Mm.
And the only people on the Instagram are me, River, and Steve, so
This
no
is
one else
correct.
is going to see anything.
Yeah.
And we keep it between us. But we had a lot of people ask us about, like, church hurt. Like, what do you do when the church hurts you? And we weren't going to just be like, oh, the church never hurts anyone, because
Yeah.
we know that's not true.
Very not
Um,
true.
And it's very not true, and it is an unfortunate reality. That's my saying about it. It's an unfortunate reality because, and I'll preface the episode with this: if it's never God that is hurting people, it's His people, right? And so we all know that. And whether a person actually believes in God or not, only the Lord knows. But we know that people that would like be pastors or be leaders or have these predominant roles or just proclaim to be a Christian hurt other people, hurt other Christians or hurt non-believers or like first-time people in the church or people that have been there a long time. And like sometimes that can be just a mistake, like just made a mistake, and sometimes that's people's just selfish, sinful nature and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, but I just want to start the episode off with like if you've been hurt by the church or someone in the church or something like that, I want to say, A, I'm sorry. Jesus never meant for it to be like that.
Yeah.
And I want to say, B, religion is flawed because man is flawed. It's never God that is actually doing these unjust things to you, right? And now people might say God told me to. But if it's against God's nature and His will, then I bet you God didn't tell them to. And so I just want to say those two things. Like, I am sorry, and know that it wasn't God. Know that it was the church, the people, the organization, like whatever is going on. But just know that it was not God.
Yeah.
That's right. And I know for a fact that each one of us here at this table has a friend or a family member who has been affected and hurt by the church. So it and it affects everyone. Like if your friend like is like devout follower of Jesus, like you see it, like you see him do all the stuff, checks all the boxes and all of the stuff, like, and you like watch him like talk to people about Jesus and share his faith and all of that, and like he's walking side by side with you, and like one day walks away, that like really wrecks you. And like that's happened to like me, Isaac, Steven, all of us have experienced that in one form or another. So like it doesn't just hurt us, that like it doesn't just, you're not the only one that's hurt. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm kind of all over the place. So I'm trying to give me a second.
I have faith.
Okay. You guys aren't the only one that's hurt when you like walk away from church, walk away from like the organization of the church, because it affects like every single person around you when someone hurts you. Because like it's like when someone hurts your little brother, you're hurt for your little brother, right? You want to fight for him, stand up for him. And not saying it's like a little brother, but like a family member. You fight for your family, you fight for what you care about.
For sure.
So you hurt with the people who are hurt. And to be fair, like just exactly what Isaac's saying is like, none of us are perfect. No one here at this table does a perfect job of representing Christ. And honestly, I don't think we're supposed to be like, we can't, any of us say we can be perfect representations of Christ because we're broken sinners.
Yeah.
And I just want to like start there. But I don't know. There's a lot of, I don't know. I think I'm trying to think of like examples of like how people I know have been hurt by Christ. I know when people have tried to like, hey, like hurt by the church. Christ doesn't hurt anyone.
Big word slip up there by River Harter.
I've been in and out of like meetings all day. It's been a long one.
I hear excuses.
It's
Excuses are nails that build a house of failure.
Wait, what?
I'm kidding. Actually, I'm not. But like,
pain is weakness leaving the body.
So now that we're done with that, there you go. But it's okay. I don't know. I think that church hurt. There's so much. Good shot, by the way. Cheers. Just in case you guys aren't watching the YouTube, which you guys, if you are not watching the YouTube, you are missing out on so much. You're missing out on so much if you're not watching the YouTube, dude.
If you're not watching the YouTube, you're missing out on me struggling with this mic because it does not want to stay still or do anything I want it to do.
Missing on me shooting my LaCroix can into the trash.
Which made it very impressively.
I made it, and it had a cool sound.
Yeah, church hurt. We had to remember that with church hurt, though, that like there is no such thing as a perfect church. Or because if there was, we'd all be attending it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like there'd be no such thing as, just as much as there's no perfect human, there's no such thing as a perfect church. The physical church building is just a place where followers of Jesus and people who aren't come together to realize a little bit more about who this Jesus guy is. Yeah. That is not like just because you're in a church building. I always know people always are like, oh, I'll tone down my language because now I'm in the church building. Right. Like, oh yeah. Because this apparently has some sort of, special rule where you can't swear in it. Magic, the magic drywall of the church building. It's like,
which is, I mean, like it's a respect thing. Like you're in a church.
It's definitely respectful. Like,
but just know that, to Steve's point, that it's not the actual building.
Yeah, it's this idea that Christ, His Spirit, it resides in us. Therefore, our bodies are temples. That's in 1 Corinthians. Actually, it's all over the New Testament. Anyways. So, like, it's not the idea that you go into the building like, oh, the Spirit of God is in that building. No. His Spirit resides in us. And the idea is for us to be righteous if you're in Christ, correct? Yeah? So when you, I don't know, use profanity, talk, like, crudely or whatever, it's that's the idea going forward. It's like, oh, you shouldn't be saying that or doing that or whatever. You shouldn't be having, like, sexual or immoral thoughts or lusting or whatever. Or doing actions like that or whatever. We all know what we're not supposed to do. Right. I mean, it's in the Word. Anyways, but that's the kind of idea. It's not like, oh, you don't do those things because you're at church. No, you don't do those things because we're supposed to be representatives of Christ and His Spirit resides inside of us. Anyways, and that's just a little quick thing to correct that. I don't know why I decided to correct that or talk about that, but we did. The thing I really want to dive into
it's a rabbit trail.
Is what do we do when our friends, when our family, when people we know get hurt by the church, how do we address it? How can we be there for them, support them, all of that? And I'm just going to leave that open for Isaac or Steve to answer.
Number one thing you cannot do. You cannot invalidate it. You cannot just instantly come out. Because let's say, and this has happened plenty of times at our church specifically, like, and I'm sure any mega church runs into this. Any church in general will run into this. But like, I think that mega churches are specifically prone to this because of just the nature of how things operate in a human building that is built, right? Like we said, to honor the Lord in everything that we do, of course, is the main goal. We are flawed. We make mistakes. We have these slip-ups here and there, and that can come across as hurtful, and especially when it comes to personal stuff, very hurtful to our own self. And so you can't really invalidate it just because you don't think that there's church hurt happening to you, or you don't think that there are things that are wrong with the church. You could absolutely love your church. Like, I absolutely love this church, right? Mm-hmm. I know that this church has hurt plenty of people, the same as every single other church, right? And so you cannot invalidate someone's church hurt right at the very start and stuff. You definitely want to hear them out. If one of my friends were to come to me and say, "Hey, Steven, like, I've got this really big issue involving Collective or college ministry," I would not just say, "No, you're wrong," instantly. I wouldn't be like, "No, I think that Collective is actually beautiful and wonderful, and it is a precious little thing." Well, that's great, what I think, but like, my friend's hurting. We gotta work with them, feel that out with them, talk that out with them, really figure out where their heart is behind this. And at the end of the day, you kind of just walk with them through that. And you have to figure out, at least my way of thinking about this, how to show them the body of Christ outside of this quote-unquote church hurt that they have, right? Mm-hmm. Show them the love of Christ outside of a church building. Walk with them in day-to-day life. Walk with them in their going to school and they're going to work. Be there for them. Like Isaac always says, like 90% of helping someone through stuff like this is being there, is being present. Yeah. Right? Like, be present in life. Just because they're hurt by the church does not mean that they need to be completely excommunicated from your life and stuff, you know?
Right. No.
And it's usually like, you're not even hurt by like the church. You're hurt by like a person.
Yeah.
That's tied to the church or like is a part of the church. And like we would say like Grace is a mega church strictly off attendance. Like, I don't like that word because it comes with like all these connotations, but just like attendance wise. And it's a balance because you're like, oh, like we must be doing something right because we're growing and like people like it here and they're like supporting us and stuff like that. But the balance is like we're growing and that's great, but we don't want anyone to slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
But we know that as the bigger we get, like the more that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I love what Steve said. Like, if someone is hurt, whether in any case, right? If someone is hurt, whether it is like valid or not, they are feeling that way.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't like, and this is what I'm prone to. I'm prone to like, oh, my feelings are hurt, and I'd be like, why? And then we like talk about their feelings and we're like, well, you're dumb for feeling like that.
Yeah.
Because actually like the other person was in the right or something like that. And where Steve is wisely coming in and saying like, whether a person is wrongfully upset or like they're upset and the reason they're upset is not actually valid, like the person that upset them like said something that was correct and they're upset because it was correct, right? It's okay to like still be there for them and still help them and still walk them through things, and at the same time like maybe disagree with them or their emotions are actually not valid in like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But like any person, the way that someone's feeling, like that is their reality. Their perception of their feelings is their reality. Yeah. And so you have to walk them through that reality to a almost kind of a new reality if they are in fact wrong. And then there are plenty of cases where like our friend will get hurt by like someone in the church and everyone will like go to back the person in the church because they're a leader, they're on staff, like they got it all figured out, right? Yeah. And so like just because the other person is like not on staff or not respected or maybe not liked as much as the other person, they're automatically discounted and stuff like that. Yeah. And that is no. That is no.
Yeah.
That's
for
a big
sure.
fat no.
Yeah. And on that, like I'm gonna share like two examples of like different forms of church hurt, and one of them is like personal for me. So, like I am a member of the body of Christ, correct? Yes. So is Steven.
Yes.
So is Isaac. So is whoever.
Anyone who believes in Jesus.
So in a
Correct.
sense, the three of us gathered together make up the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. And there can be quarrels and disagreement and hurt in between the three of us on this podcast, right? So there's been times where I'm sure I've hurt Isaac, I've hurt Steven, Steven's hurt me, Steven's hurt Isaac, Isaac hurts Steve, Isaac hurts me. You know?
that is how that works.
That is how that works. And like
Triangle of hurt.
and I can remember one time I was very angry at them. I was like I sat in it for a little bit. But like they weren't wrong in what they were saying. How they went about saying it may have been wrong, you know, which is
it may not have.
maybe
and
not.
you might have been being a little sensitive.
Maybe not. Like, but regardless, I felt hurt, right? And like, you know, I've addressed this since with them, and we're chill now, and they were right about what they were saying. But like, still, I was like, why would you do that? What the heck? And like, sure, I sat in it for a while, but like, once I got over like myself, I was able to understand that they actually were trying to say that out of love. And sure, like, that's not the case for a lot of church hurt. And like, the second example I'm going to share with you of like church hurt is like much bigger, like causing like depression, anxiety, rifting families apart, rifting all this other stuff. So like a very close person in my life, well, at one point was a youth pastor at a church and felt called out of it and needed to step away. And the head pastor of this smaller church called him a failure and his life would amount to nothing and la-da-da-da-da and berates this person, right, for like a while, saying all these similar types of things, how he's letting his family down, whatever. It causes this person to doubt himself, doubt God, because his faith or his understanding of God is somewhat in that person, right? Because when you see someone who you respect, who is supposed to represent Christ, your expectations of them go up, correct?
Correct.
Right, like I have high expectations for Stephen and Isaac. I have high expectations for Pastor Jeff. I have high expectations for my boss. Like, they're supposed to represent Christ well. And when you see people like that fall away, not even fall away, but like handle things completely inappropriately, fall short, you know, because we all have shortcomings, that really hurts you. And that's why you're hurt by the people you have the highest expectation for. And oftentimes that expectation is put on the people that are closest to you. So I don't know, like wherever like you see that, like we have to remember like some of it is like completely valid. Sometimes it's just in your own head. Like, I don't know, I get in my head a lot and I'm super sensitive, but like there's some real stuff that takes years of counseling and walking through it. So I don't know, like again, and it's just on that idea that we cannot disregard the hurt. And I think a huge part of it, you can't let anyone go. I think that's where I stand with part of church hurt. So one, we don't invalidate it. We validate the hurt. And then two, we remember that there's no lost cause. There's nothing you can let go. You need to walk hand in hand with that person and go after them. It's kind of like when I think of it, I think of the 99, right? So like Jesus is like, okay, he leaves the 99 for that one sheep because, oh my goodness, that one sheep, maybe he gets hurt, goes away, walks off. He wanders away. And Jesus is like, no. I think it's kind of the same principle. He leaves and chases after it to bring it back close to him. He's like, no. You need to know who I am, not all these other things that are distracting you to like away. And that's a little bit off. Like it's not exactly what I'm like trying to argue for or like push towards. But like Jesus still wants us to chase after that person, regardless of any circumstance. He wants us to bring everyone back close to him, not us. Because if you lead people to yourself, you're doing it right. Anyways.
Well, I think it's very easy for you to get behind a church more than you get behind God, I think.
Oh, yeah, it's tangible.
It's very easy for that,
it's
you know?
Tangible.
It's a tangible thing.
Yeah. And so I think that, like, if you look at these situations where someone gets hurt by a church, and I'm not hurt by that church, I really like that church, really am behind that church, it's tangible. I'm like, look at the fruits of the Spirit being used here and it's being shown.
Good church.
You know, it could be a very... And listen, people get hurt by great churches. Like,
every
don't get me
church
wrong.
that exists is going to hurt somebody.
Exactly.
Intentional or unintentional.
Every church, whether they are theologically sound or complete heresy, they're going to hurt somebody, right?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I think that it's very easy. And when River was talking, I got a sense of this as well, and I've been realizing this more and more as I, like, interact with our aged people. Every single young adult has their own headspace. They have, like, their ideal image of what, like, the church should look like for them. Yep. And so if I'm looking at it, I have that for sure. Like, of course I have my ideal image of what a church should look like. And if you don't fit those expectations, I'm going to be like, well, what's going on here, right? Grace Church has missed that expectations, and every single other church that I've had missed expectations, right? Because I'm thinking of some perfect church. Never going to be the case. But I've noticed that I'll be more prone to snap back at or to get angry at the things that aren't being met in my expectations of the church. Like, I'll be more prone to be upset at those things. I'll be like, wait, so you're telling me that we don't actually like, what's up the music that we have? That's something that some people get like really
Too loud.
Yeah, way too loud, way too energetic, way too much.
upbeat.
And I'm like, you know
Cough
what?
is horrible.
Like, totally.
That's legit.
Listen, if you're in your perspective of a church walking into it was hymnals and
Right.
and having the choir from
Three-piece suit.
it's like you are the choir and you got the director up on stage and you're leading them through like psalms, you're leading them through something like that, then of course it's gonna be a big miss here.
Yeah.
And you might be hurt by that.
Yeah.
That might be a very valid thing. And I think that our head pastor here, Jeff Bogue, he said something very, very good in a group that I went to this past weekend. He said, it's not just because we think that a single church, like in this situation, our church, is completely correct. Because there's actually plenty of other churches that if you wanted to do that, by the way, you're completely valid for wanting that. Like, that's a completely fair thing. If you want that environment, if your expectations are not being met here, there are plenty of other churches to go around to and to participate in. But I think what happens so often is like something will be very, very drastically missed. Like big puzzle piece for you and your heart will be missed. And that's where like church, I don't even want to, it's past church hurt. I feel like it's almost like church condemnation is what it feels like for you. Because that's where some of my friends have been like, oh, dude, what the heck? You're going to that church? Or what the heck? Like, your church doesn't do this? Like, that's a very big puzzle piece that's being missed here. And they're like, that is like condemning the faith almost is what it feels like to them. I mean, it's very deep. And when you get into that whole entire realm of thought process, I think that you get to the point where like River's talking about where like they feel excommunicated from the church almost just because of this.
Oh, absolutely.
And sometimes very validly so, very, very fair, like in their thinking process and how they're feeling with that. Like, they're completely correct.
Yeah.
But what I like what River said is that if your perspective of a perfect ideal church is broken, which by the way it will be, but I should say when it is, if your response is to leave, the body of Christ should still be upheld.
Yeah. Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that that's where we, as people who are in the church, and anyone who's listening, if you are a follower of Christ, this is where we can miss the mark a bit sometimes. Where, well, they left because X, Y, and Z. Maybe they even fell into a sin.
Yeah.
Who knows? We could even go past church hurt and just go to like falling away from the church. That's big. We can miss the mark sometimes. We can just be like, they're going out, they're doing their own thing. And you get that mentality of like, well, he's just one more. It's like, ooh, that feels really bad to even say. Because I'm like, eek,
Yeah.
that's a soul right there.
Yeah.
And that soul might be hurting from the church or from whatever. Like, if we never even double tap on that's really, really unfortunate then.
Yeah.
I love what you said, and I also think that like I think there is health and unhealth to having an expectation for church and then going to a church and it's like not meeting your expectation, right? And then there's two responses out of that. Like it's one thing to be like, I want hymns, I want a 3-piece suit, I want pews, I want whatever, and nowhere in the Bible is it like you have to have hymns, a 3-piece suit, and pews.
Exactly.
And nowhere in the Bible is it like rock out, wear whatever you want, we got chairs, right?
We got chairs.
Right, it's like none of that's there, right? So it's kind of like up for whatever you're vibing with. And what Steve said is like, if you want like that hymn 3-piece suit, pews, cool, go for it. Nothing wrong with that. If you want like loud music, chairs, and wear whatever you want, cool, go for it. Nothing wrong with that. But I think where it gets unhealthy and like dangerous is where you're like looking for this church and you're like, oh, there's no good churches around me or whatever, and you have this expectation, and we're just going to use Grace Church because that's the one we go to and that's the one we can talk about the most because we know it the most. And you walk into like Grace Church or whatever, and you have these expectations and it doesn't meet your expectations, right? Something is off that you don't like, whatever. And then I think where the danger is instead of giving it a chance for what it is, you are taking away your chance to give it because it doesn't meet your expectations. And so instead of actually enjoying and being present in what it is and experiencing what it is, right, whether it's Grace, Chapel, wherever, you have this expectation, and so now you're not even enjoying what it is. You're just like upset that it's what it isn't.
Yeah.
What you expect it to be.
Yeah.
And like how can any church know what you expect it to be, and how can any church meet all your expectations,
Yeah.
right? So why not go into a Bible teaching, Jesus believing church and experience what it is?
Yeah.
Question. All right.
Answer, possibly.
What does every single human want? Like they want everything to be what for them? Perfect.
Perfect in what they want.
They want it to be perfect exactly for them. But here's the thing. When I was thinking about you said the word perfect in church together and like did a great no, it's not going to be like that. The word perfect in church, I don't think ever goes together. The only thing that's perfect about church is who Jesus is.
Yeah.
That's the only part that's right. Is Jesus and like the fact that he's died and the fact that he rose. That's the only thing that is perfect that we can like all kind of get behind. It's like if you miss that, you miss the resurrection, you miss what church is about.
Yeah.
You miss what following Christ is about. The body is broken.
Yeah.
Our body is destroyed, right? And like I don't know, that's why Paul emphasizes for unity so much all throughout his epistles, which are the letters he wrote to the churches, right? That's why he wants us to be in unity not only with one another, but in unity with the head, with God, with Jesus, the one. Because if your head is saying to run, but your body decides, nah, you're not gonna get anywhere. Like even though you really want to run, like you really want to, and if your body's like, hey, I need to eat food, and I need my hand to grab my fork to stab my I don't know, my
Steak.
salad or steak. We're gonna stab our steak.
My
But,
carnitas.
like, how are you gonna eat if you can't function, right?
Yeah.
Like no, your body's dead if it's not listening to the head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Bars.
that's right.
That was bars.
That was
Bars.
That was
That
bars.
was some bars. Your body's dead if it's not listening to the head. Anyways, but we need to recognize that word perfection in the church body, it's just never ever going to be there. It's like I'm not trying to tell you lower your expectations or change what you want. I'm just trying to tell you expect everything to be just not what you expect. Like you can have things you want.
Expectation is perfection. It's not going to be that.
All right.
Fun fact.
Expectations lead to premeditated disappointment. Bob Combs. I will say that all the time.
Fire.
Expectations lead to premeditated disappointment. You will be let down by what you expect.
Well, here's the thing, too. You can't, like, this is what I found some people do as well, including myself. Like, you can't go in to a church expecting them to show you everything that God is.
Not everything.
Not everything. They should be showing you as much as they can.
Exactly.
And we're humans, and we're not God, and we can't show you the incredible 100%ness of God, right? That's a word, 100%ness.
Your relationship with God should not be based upon the church.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what I think that so many people come into, and like, I'm guilty of this when I first accepted Christ. I guarantee it in some form or fashion. It's like,
we're all guilty of this to this day.
yeah, like you cling on to, like River said and Isaac said, tangible things to try to show you who God is, right? So like, why do you hang around fellowship? Because they're tangible evidences of the Lord working through people. You can look at people, like I can look at River and Isaac and say the Lord's working uniquely in both of them in a way that is like incredible. Why else would you want to be around them, right? Why else would you want to walk into a church? Because hopefully, cross your fingers, they're following after the Lord's heart, and whatever the Lord's putting on those leaders, those pastors, those staff, whatever it is, that's of the Lord's heart, and that's attractive. And so if you walk in there saying, man, like I cannot wait to be shown all of these different things about God all at once, somewhere in there they're going to slip up. Somewhere in there.
Right.
They have to. Every church will. And so I agree with River. It's not lower your expectations. It's very truthfully, do not expect the church to be your God. You can't. Because if you do, you will 100% be let down, and then that will lead to your perspective of God being completely off and skewed.
if your idol's anything but Jesus, you're going to be let down.
Yeah.
Because other idols fail.
And that's really hard too.
Yeah.
And that goes for like people too.
Yeah.
Like people can't be your God or your idol or like whatever. Like at Grace, like Jeff Bogue's head pastor, like he cannot be your idol or your God or anything like that.
Yeah.
He can be a leader, an example. He can be a role model. But if you're at Grace Church for Jeff or fill in your blank, whatever, then like at some point, Jeff fill in your blank or whatever is going to let you down. And then you'll be like, oh, I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Goodbye.
Yep.
And that's why I think like we see so many people have like one bad experience, whether it be a truly bad experience, like straight evil, or like someone doesn't like someone, they had a disagreement, someone like didn't get a job or something like that, right? What it saddens me is when someone has a bad experience with one person and so they screw the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they're just gone, right?
Yeah.
And so like whether that be like someone had like at Grace, we have all these different sports groups. Like if someone had a bad experience at a sports group, so you stop coming to college ministry and to Grace Church, and you lose all your friends, and you don't go to life group anymore. Like in my mind, I'm like, what the heck? Like that's one dude. Like you had a bad experience with one person, so you throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yeah, which is the weirdest expression ever. Mm. But it gets the point across. Like you had one bad experience, and like granted, listen to me. It could be a genuinely bad experience. Yeah. I understand that. I know that that's a thing. I have had those things. I have had bad experiences. But I don't throw it all away because I know that people are messed up. That person's not my idol. That person's not my God. They could have been a good leader. They could have been even a mentor or a role model to me. But I'm not throwing out everything just because that person screwed up. Yeah. Right? That's not fair to the church. That's not fair to myself, honestly. Because everywhere you go where there's multiple people in a group or a community or something like that, like people will let you down, right? And so if I'm in a friend group and like one person is a jerk to me, why am I throwing all the other friends away out of one person? Yeah. Like Jesus had 12 disciples. One of them betrayed him and got him killed, right? Yeah. That's way worse than anything that's going to happen to you at any church. And yet still, he did not condone the rest of the 11. He didn't throw them out. He didn't give up on them. No, he did the opposite. He leaned further into them. He leaned on them and vice versa. Yeah. So like just because like you get a Judas of a church or a Judas of a group, someone who just hurts you, whether it be on accident or on purpose, like don't throw the rest of it out. Yeah. That's just foolishness. That's what that is. Yeah.
I think that this is one of those things where, and like I don't think we've talked a lot about like the deeper church hurt, because very truthfully,
that we could get into that a whole
and I think that really if you have very deep church hurt, and what I mean by that is like you legitimately are scarred from this experience, which unfortunately like you never like to talk about it, but it exists, right? There's terrible things that you see with like sexual assault in the church from people, and like all these different very, very intense, deep hurt and scandals and issues with all these different forms of relationships and everything. It can get very, very scary to talk about and very, very sad to talk about. So there's definitely those, right? I think that for those situations, that's a lot of work between you and the Lord and you and some trusted people to figure that out, because that is a very, very hard, scarring thing that is on your heart. Yeah. Right? And so what we've talked a lot about is very much that, I don't want to say surface level, but very common.
Trying to get a general sense.
Yeah.
Kind of overview stuff.
Yeah. And so if you're like deeply, deeply hurting over something, I would just encourage you, first and foremost, like be in consistent prayer with the Lord about that, because that is rough. And sometimes even like with that, you don't feel close to God because of that scar, and you don't feel like you can talk to God because of that scar. So talk it out with those who you trust, who will at the end of the day let you down, but they'll still trust you and they'll still be there to hear you out and talk to you. But yeah, I don't know. I think that it is very, very easy to look at a church, say, I am hurt by this church because of, like Isaac said, maybe one person, or I think that, as we've all kind of discussed, failed expectations of God is what you're thinking of. I'm confident in saying that for that area of church hurt, you have to be more rooted in God than you're rooted in anything else. That includes people. That includes the church building. That includes the church's functions. That includes anything like that. If you're spending more time being faithful and loyal in the church building, like doing all these things, serving 24/7, yet you're never praying, you're never reading your Bible, you're never taking the time, like sitting down, being in peace with the Lord, there is a problem.
Yep.
Because that right there
Absolutely.
is worshiping a church building that will let you down when you're not worshiping a God who won't let you down.
Yeah.
And so that's where like you can even get that's very easy to do and very dangerous for you.
I'm gonna not push back. I'm gonna turn this around a little bit. And I don't know. I've had a few conversations with a couple people. Let me speak into the mic so it's clear.
I like the idea.
I like that.
That's
It's a good idea.
That's a great idea, I think.
It's not a good idea, boys.
I think we often like get confused, and we're like, on what Steven is saying, we're talking about like I'm not gonna talk about like, oh, I was hurt. I'm talking about I tried the church. I tried the Christian life, and it wasn't working for me. And if you're like in that boat, I'm just trying to separate the boats, you know. So we got the ones that are hurt by the church, and we're like trying to do it, but now they're like too hurt to come back almost. And then there's the ones that have tried the church, tried to check all the boxes, tried to do all the things, wasn't working for them. God's not really, doing anything that I can really see in my life, I guess. I want to speak to that crew a little bit more. Church isn't something you try, and church isn't a thing that you should be trying. What you should be trying is following Jesus.
Yeah.
And those are two different things, church and following Jesus, and being a Christian and following Jesus. And I want to speak into the idea of following Jesus as this, okay? Following Jesus means that you are fine even without going to church. Not that that's the case. I would hope that you have fellowship somewhere and you're a part of a community somewhere, but you and your identity needs to be firmly rooted and planted in the person, in the death, and the resurrection, and the life of Jesus Christ. Because without that, you miss the whole thing. And that's probably one of the most reoccurring things I will ever say, wherever you're standing at. And if you've been hurt by the church, I hope you rest in that. Even without that body, the rest of the body, which I pray and I hope and I really, really want you to be a part of, and I want you to be in community and fellowship and to have those trusted people in your life that you can communicate with. But we need to have our identity firmly planted in that truth, because there's only one truth, and it's Jesus. And it's only the way, the truth, the life, and we all want to live, right? And if we want life, we got to go to the life. Yep. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Just speaking to every crew here, even if you're a Christian, I expect that from you, and you're in the fellowship right now, and you're in that body right now.
Yeah.
Please keep those things in mind, and never forget where your identity truly is.
Yeah. If we took all those things away from you, if we pulled a Job on you, if we Jobbed you, would you be okay? Would you still look very clearly and say, yep, Jesus is still there. He still loves me. He still cares for me.
Yeah.
That is, I'm just trying to think now. That would be ridiculously hard.
Yeah.
And confident that, people are called all the time to go to different places out of the absolute, blue from the Holy Spirit. Just, saying, oh, yeah, time for you to go this place. You're about to become a leader here. You're about to be, I need you here in this location. When that happens, I'm trying to think, what if that person just says no and, doesn't go through with that? Are they idolizing something still where they're at?
Right.
Are they still saying, ooh, but this church that I'm at right now,
I'm so comfortable
I'm
here.
so comfortable
I
here.
like it here.
It is so nice here in my little tiny church over here in the little bubble that I have.
Christian bubble.
Right?
Everyone's so nice to me.
Everyone's so kind to me. It's
comfy.
If we removed that, that right there can show you that maybe you're idolizing your church or something, and you're
Calls your bluff.
Yeah.
And that we talk about this with COVID all the time. COVID called your bluff, man.
Yeah, it did.
If you were gonna go into ministry and then COVID hit and stuff got stupid hard, Like, if you weren't in, you weren't in. Right?
Yeah.
There was no
Yeah.
faking that. And, like, I love what Steve said, moving beyond COVID. Like if your church was gone, if your friends were gone, if there was no volleyball group, if there was no collective, if there was no podcast you're listening to, if it was you and God, would you be okay?
Yeah.
Like, check yourself with that. Would you be okay? It would. I know for me, like, that would suck. I love my church. I love my friends.
Yeah.
I love, like, my intake from other commentaries, and I love, like, my worship music, and I love all that kind of stuff. And I work here, and, like, I love it. And if that were gone, it would rock me.
Yeah.
It would rock me.
Oh, yeah.
But you need to ask yourself, like, is that what you're looking to God for? Are you looking for God in the church, in fellowship, in this leader and that leader? And so then when they hurt you, or not even maybe hurt you, maybe they just are a human
Yeah.
and mess up or let you down or don't meet your expectations, because every human will do that. Why are you then so quick to leave the church, so quick to leave that group, so quick to abandon that? Because that person is God to you.
Yeah.
That is filling the God-sized hole in your heart. And that's not fair for you, and that is not fair for any human ever.
Yeah.
Because any human ever is going to let you down on that. So, to end, I just want to remind you guys, like, we love you guys. We do.
Very true.
Everybody. And we'll have different episodes where we'll go in more into some specifics. But we just wanted to talk about, because that church hurt, that's a real thing.
It's
Right?
really relevant.
It's really
too.
relevant. It's a really big thing. It affects everybody that's a part of a church. And so we're here to tell you, like, we're Christians. We go to this big church. Like, we love our church, but we're not blind to that.
Yeah.
Right? And I want to let you know, like, as a staff member of Grace Church, the staff is not blind to that. Like, we know people fall through the cracks, and we know we need to do everything that we can to not let that happen, and we know that we won't be able to, and that will fail, and that will mess up. But we know that we love the Lord, and we know the Lord loves you. So I just want to remind you guys that what you feel is valid, right?
Yeah.
What you feel is valid. Feelings are valid. And I also want to remind you that religion is flawed because man is flawed.
Mm-hmm.
God didn't hurt you. God didn't do that to you. He didn't talk to you like that. He didn't discriminate against you like that. That was somebody, a broken, sinful person just like the rest of us. So I just want to remind you guys, you are awesome.
Yeah.
I want to remind you guys you're awesome. We love you so much. Thank you for tuning in. River has one more thing. He
He gave us the finger. He gave us
but you have to hurry, okay?
the 1 second.
All right. Perfect religion is loving others in affliction and loving God. Okay.
More bars.
It's like it's straight out of James.
James got bars.
Meeting people where they're at and taking them to where they need to go. That's perfect religion.
Yep.
And that's what Jesus represents and does. And we want to be able to do that and communicate that and be that for you. We don't want to be the idol, but we want to be an asset of the ultimate idol, Jesus Christ. So that's all I had to say. And with that being said, let's end it out. Follow
Boom.
God without apology. We'll see you next time.
Boom.